Braveheart can take. And we've contracted with the ship to keep us there for 20 days, which should allow us 14 to 16 days of good radio activity. We plan to be active on 10 through 160 meters, CW, SSB, and digital. We've decided to forego 6-meter activity or EME activity. This is going to be an old-fashioned de-expedition where we just really focus on good, fast sound operating on 10 through 160 meters. We've contracted with the best ship in the world. The Braveheart is very stout. It's not a large ship. It's about 140 feet, but it is strong. The crew is even stronger. They're just supermen, really. They're all just really, really tough characters, and it's a good thing they like his ham radio guys, because you wouldn't want to meet them in a bar fight or something. There's some real tough guys there, but they have a lot of passion for their track record and helping us be successful. They bring a lot of passion to the equation as well. We're really delighted that Elecraft is going to sponsor us with K4 radios. And soon we'll take delivery of those and begin to test them and get familiar with them and set them up for the activation. We like the Elecraft gear because when you operate 6 or 8 stations from one tent, one antenna field, everybody's running a KW or 1200 watts. The transmit signal on the Elecraft gear is really clean, and you really don't know that the other fellows are there. It's really, really amazing technology. We also use the 4 Oscar 3 Alpha high power bandpass filters and their triplexer and duplexer with really, really good results. Tim and the gang at DX Engineering, boy, they're just fantastic. They do so much to promote de-expeditioning. They just bring a ton of good ideas and good solutions, and they really add to our ability to be successful. We're really, really proud to be associated with DX Engineering and to enjoy all of their help that they offer. Really great people. Inov Antennas, based in the UK with their manufacturing now moving to Germany, is going to provide our high band antennas. We've heard good things about them. We haven't used them before, but we're looking forward to it. And here's our team. And most of the guys are in their 50s. I think just a couple are in their 60s. Some pretty strong guys here, strong in will, strong in character. My co-leader, Ken, LA7 GIA, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer if there ever was. He just has such passion to do activations, and he's just always thinking about what's next. So we have a super, super great team, and you recognize a lot of these guys from other activations, some of them from the VP8 PJ team and the South Sandwich, South Georgia teams. Jun Tanaka here, the Japanese fella, he's been on a whole bunch of the expeditions with us, going back to 2010 when we went to Iraq together. In 2011, we went to South Sudan, the new country, together. So a really, really great team. And we feel that South Sandwich and South Georgia really prepared us for this activation. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but Bouvet is really like the Mount Everest of de-expeditioning, and this is not our first mountain. South Sandwich and South Georgia were very, very tough activations. The wind and the weather exceeded anything that we could have imagined, and so we know what we need to do, what we need to prepare for to do an even better job. So we're proud of the 135,000 contacts we made combined from those islands, and we hope to exceed that from Bouvet. Part of our timing for the de-expedition in January 2023 is that's when the propagation experts tell us that there should be pretty good sunspot activity, and the higher bands should be just really popping. So That's part of the reason why we timed it for January 2023. And we're just super proud of all of the foundations and the clubs that have stepped up to help us, the great folks at Northern California DX Foundation and Indexa. All of these clubs, they collectively add so much. They pass the hat. And it's only through this method of, sort of the community, the DX community coming together and passing the hat and supporting this type of activity that we can do it. None of us are rich. None of us have won the lottery. And it's really, we know and appreciate the fact that the DX community has to be solidly behind our plans and the DX community's partners in what we do. And if we're successful, we hope that you all feel that you benefited some way or other. So any final questions for Bill or I? Well, I want to thank you all for inviting us to your meeting tonight. Was there a question?
I sort of saw a map of the island. What part is the beach on and what part will you be setting up your antennas on?
Yeah, that's so we've identified there's basically 3 places at Bouvet where we can make a shore landing without the need for a helicopter. We're not planning to bring a helicopter. I can tell you if we needed a helicopter to get on South Sandwich Island, we'd still be sitting there waiting for good weather. So we don't want to deal with the complexity and the danger and the cost of a helicopter. We've identified there's actually 4 places on Bouvet where we could make a landing, but the one place is in a restricted no man's zone. It's called Nairoisa. That's the location where all the previous activities have taken place. It's where the Norwegian Polar Institute Science Base is located, and they've given us very clear instructions that we cannot camp there or do any radio from there. So that gives us 3 other locations, which are more on the eastern side of the island. Basically, when we arrive at Bouvet, we're going to evaluate how safe each of the landing places is. I mean, we have high resolution satellite photos where we've looked at them and we have sort of a primary and secondary place in mind. But the wind, the weather, the sea conditions are largely going to dictate which of those 3 places we land at. One location is much better for radio than the other 2. The location that's probably the easiest and safest is absolutely horrendous for radio. So that's why it's the 3rd choice. So we'll just have to really see when we get there. A lot of it, the Braveheart crew is a big part in our decision making, and if they say we can safely get you ashore here, well, that's where we're going to go ashore. So we've got 3 places to decide from, and we won't firmly make that decision until we get there.
Paul, being that it's a beach landing that you're doing, have you thought through the sequence of the guys that are going ashore? Where do they end up in going ashore?
We will have a very detailed landing plan, and we will sequence the team and all of the equipment. In fact, some of the redundant emergency equipment will stay on the boat until we absolutely need it. We know from past experiences that we need some really strong guys ashore, and we need some really strong guys to stay back on the boat to help move the equipment into the small boats. And then of course the shore guys will move the equipment out of the boats and up the face of the rocks. Our past experience tells us that the generators and the fuel will be the most difficult items to move. We're going to break down the tents into smaller components and also the antennas. And so we can make everything pretty much light enough for one person to carry, but we know the generators that's going to be really, really tough. And the Braveheart crew they're on the hook to help us with a lot of that. But we will have quite a detailed landing plan, and everybody will have a role that they need to do. And I envision something along the effect of having one physician on shore with the early landing team and one physician remaining back on the boat with the loading crew.
How much gas are you guys going to go through on the island?
Nigel Jolly told me very early in our discussions, he says, now, Paul, this is how he speaks. Now, Paul, do not have any smokers because we're going to have fuel bladders everywhere on the ship. There will be fuel. We will be a gas station. You are to have no smokers on your team. He says, if you bring a smoker, they will go overboard. So he's planning to have big rubber bladders out on the deck on the back for fuel, not only for their Zodiac style boats and the generators, but also just to stay on station for 20 days. And that's why the cost of this particular charter is so high. As the Braveheart, Nigel says that there is no safe landing place anywhere near Bouvet. He said that the depths, basically Bouvet just rises up out of the depths, and that there's just nowhere to anchor. And so they're going to be motoring around, fighting the winds and the currents, stay near in case we need help.
And so they don't anchor as we know it.
Normally they would prefer to, but just as when we were at South Sandwich, they didn't anchor there either. They were constantly in motion, doing kind of a zigzag thing offshore. And that's the plan here too. So they'll be burning a lot of fuel just staying near us. Imagine doing that for 20 days, just going around in circles.
So Bill, very nice to see you, Bill, here at the meeting, and it's great that you have ties to Western Pennsylvania, certainly growing up here, participating with the Radio Association of Erie. My very dear friend, John Kansas, K3TUP, whose amplifier is downstairs and part of the K3LR multi station. But Bill, and I'll ask this question before Alex does, because I guess Alex has a lot more confidence because Alex and John are both doctors. But Bill, what is your greatest worry? What is your fear when you're out there in the middle of nowhere, 10 days away from anything? What do you worry about?
Oh, needing a medical evacuation, but anybody that's going to go here on a 42-day expedition, 10 days on a boat, my wife and I went to our trust attorney because she wanted a clause put in, if I were to disappear from the face of the earth with no trace, how would the trust be handled? And so, I guess you just have to accept what's going to happen.
Bill, I have a question. You have challenges dealing with like the physical examination. You don't have lab tests, things like that. But realistically, isn't there some component of the possibility of mental and psychological fatigue in some of the expeditioners, that they have a breakdown, so to speak, mentally? I mean, it's extremely stressful, and I'm not a contester, but I can imagine being at the, doing that, and then the wind and everything. How do you treat some of those, the psychological issues? Or do people get depressed or anxious, or how does that work?
Well, I guess we'll take it as it comes. The scopolamine patches can induce psychosis after 2 or 3 days. And so it's a 10-day boat ride. So I guess we'll see how that goes. And you know what? Injectable Haldol is on the med list.
Wow.
That is a psych med. And so the list that K9AJ gave us, that was on there.
I can tell you on some of the tougher de-expeditions, certainly on South Sandwich and South Georgia, we all found our physical, mental, emotional limits. Some guys handle it with alcohol, some guys handle it by sleep, some guys go for a long walk. We try to pay attention to people and give people a break, or encourage them to maybe skip a shift on the radio and just get an extra bit of sleep. We pay attention to that, and we try to kind of shuffle the resources around to cover the time on the radio and just really help people get back into their groove.
So I'm going to ask a tough question here, Paul. But I've heard other de-expeditions of this magnitude really pay attention to this. What happens if somebody dies?
I've talked to Nigel Jolly about that, and he answered. He said, "How tall are you, Paul? About 6 feet?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You'll fit in the freezer." So he's kind of joking, but he said that what they would do is they would put the deceased team member in there's a walk-in freezer on the Braveheart, and he says that they would radio the authorities in Cape Town and inform them if there was a death. I've said, "Hey, just bury me at sea and carry on," but he said that the authorities in Cape Town would have the final say on what's done. But in case of a death, I think it's unlikely that we would have to completely stop operating. But it's up to the authorities at that point.
No, I mean, you have to think about everything. And certainly the team members all know that this is extremely dangerous. I mean, it is really, really a bad place to go. And there was a team that went out there not too long ago that didn't get on the island. And so, Paul, do you want to talk a little bit about the economics? What is the expected expense of this whole deal?
Yeah, so our budget total is just under $800,000. The Braveheart charter contract is $652,000. It's basically about a little over $15,000 per day. We've structured our payment system with them where we have to pay them $550,000 up front, and we have to pay them $100,000 60 days after we return. Each team member is contributing a minimum of $20,000 into our budget, and plus their travel costs to Cape Town. We hope we can keep it at that. If we have a shortfall, we may have to increase the team operator cost. So typically the model is that the de-expedition team pays for half of the de-expedition cost, and we ask the DX community, the global DX community, to help us with the other half. We think we're going to be okay. It's too early to really tell, but the good news is that we're the only major de-expedition right now doing fundraising. In 2015, when we were fundraising for South Sandwich and South Georgia, things were going along pretty well, and then Hurt Island pushed their trip back a year into 2016, and all of a sudden Hurt Island and the VPA team were fundraising at the same time, and that really affected our ability to raise money. We don't have that issue right now, so I think we're in pretty good shape. I feel confident that we'll make it. It's not going to be easy. We can't afford to make any mistakes. We're reusing a lot of the equipment that we have from other de-expeditions that's serviceable. everything doesn't have to be brand spanking new. I mean, we test everything, we evaluate everything. So we try to economize where we can, try to stretch our dollars. But that's basically how things are shaping up.
So beginning to end, if we look at this de-expedition, Paul, from one of the operators, how long are they going to be away from home?
They're going to be away from home probably about 46 days. The charter itself is 42 days. We'll want everybody to arrive a day or two early in Cape Town. And then after we get back to Cape Town, we'll have to offload the ship into a container. So realistically, 46, maybe the leaders, maybe 47 or 48.
So let's round up to 50 days just to call it what it is. 50 days away from home. You fly to Cape Town and you get on the Braveheart, and you're on the Braveheart for 10 days, right?
Yes.
And even Bill, Dr. Bill is going to do his best to keep you under control, but you're going to be sick and you're going to be worn out. And then you get to this island and finally you're there, and you've been sick and worn out. But Dr. Bill has done his best work.
I'm going to have to mute this. My wife is listening in the kitchen.
And then you get on the island and you're going to work your butt off to construct the station, and you're going to work really hard, put up all these antennas. You got the wind, it's cold, it's bad. And then you're going to operate, and it's still going to be cold. You're not going to take a shower for a couple of weeks because you're on the island. And then when it gets done, you're going to work really hard to tear everything down because you can't leave anything on the island. And you're exhausted from operating and tearing stuff down. And then you get back to the Braveheart, and then you're going to have another 10 days of getting sick and throwing up and get back in Cape Town. Boy, this sounds like a great thing. And you're writing out a check for $30,000.
Yeah, you nailed it on the head, but somehow it's fun. I mean, the friendships that you make, the camaraderie, the levity, the jokes, the pranks. I mean, I've got pictures and I've got stories. I mean, obviously it's a lot of fun, which is why guys want to do it again. Sure, it's tough. But the rewards are there, the feeling of accomplishment. Yeah, when we get to Bouvet, we're going to be exhausted. And after we set up, we're going to be even more exhausted. But there comes sort of this adrenaline rush that you get where you just really know you just have to kick it into high gear and step up and deliver. And it just feels so good to get to where you need to be, get the guys operating and all that. And then, people can start resting here and there. And it's just such a good feeling to have this plan in your brain for 3-4 years and orchestrate everything coming together as a plan and it clicking together and working. And I'm very confident that we'll achieve that.
I just wish that Dr. John and Dr. Alex could have this experience. And I know how much they were looking forward to this presentation tonight and getting to talk with Bill as well. And Alex, somehow you need to do this, Alex.
If I physically could do it, I would do it. But I'm just a little too old right now. I can't, I've hunted all over the place. I've dropped off in Alaska. I've been all over the place. I love those wild places. I'd sign up with you guys in about a minute if I could physically do it.
That's great. Yeah.
John, your insight tonight has been very, very spot on. And John, I know you're a great ham radio DXer, and I thank you so much for being here tonight, Dr. John.
great presentations with great company.
Thank you. Thank you. So in
And you know
closing,
how-
kind of my biggest worry that I have right now, and it's something I can't control, but my biggest worry is we get to Bouvet, we get everything set up, and then somebody breaks a leg or falls and has a serious head injury, and we have to shut down, throw everything back on the boat as fast as we can and head to Cape Town with very little contacts made. You know, and obviously a very injured team member. That's my biggest worry. And I'm even thinking about having people wearing mountaineering helmets when we go ashore just to protect for slip and falls. And we just got to mitigate everything. But that's my biggest worry at this point. And we just, you know, that risk is there.
Yeah, John, you had another comment?
I was just going to say that how you, by doing this, and we've all been in pileups, and we've been lucky enough to get through a few pileups, but this will be so exciting for so many people, and it's just the greatest thing to be able to speak to somebody in that part of the world. I mean, I would take Bouvet over Papa 5 any day of the year. Okay. And
Me too.
man, that's the real deal, is 3 Yankee 0.
Yeah, and hopefully everything goes according to plan, and we have some big plans after Bouvet. So we'll be working on those down the road, but we're not done yet.
You know, Paul, I'm very very enthusiastic about the way you've got Ken and Rune on your team. Ken is you couldn't ask for a better co-leader.
Yeah, yeah,
than
he's
LA7
he's
GIA.
fantastic. Yeah, he has so much passion.
You know, I read this morning he's going to Svalbard. Is that
Yeah,
right?
in July they're doing a small boat landing on Prince Carl Foreland in Svalbard, and they're going to kind of practice their version of Bouvet.
What energy he's had, and another Hall of Famer, just great. But you know, as the Mercer County Amateur Radio Club, we thank you so much for both you and Bill being here tonight and sharing your story. And we're going to ask that that once we get through 2021 and into 2022, that maybe closer to the DXpedition, we're going to have you back for an update. You know, it's going to all sink in. It's going to be close. It's going to be real. And Bill, I can't thank you enough for being here tonight. I know our 2 doctors are elated and are wishing you the best. And Bill, huge Western Pennsylvania congratulations, and wishing you all the luck in the world, Bill.
Thanks.
Really great to talk to everybody tonight. Thank you for following along on our plans.
Come back after you come back. Tell us the story
Okay, you got a deal.
That's it.
again.
We're going to want to see rocks from Bouvet. And of course, Alex is going to have his station all up and running so that he can work Bouvet.
Yes.
And we can show some QSL cards and all those sorts of things. And Paul, we will be giving you a job well done at that point. Anybody have any questions for Paul or Dr. Bill?
Bill, John and I are jealous as hell we're not going with you. Let me just tell you that.
So what do you 2 guys do?
I'm a retired general surgeon, did general chest vascular.
I'm a retired neurosurgeon.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. So yeah, you're kind of the same generation as me. Yeah.
Yes, Dad.
38 years. What can you say?
Yep.
It's a wonderful profession, and hopefully it'll
Yes.
the corporate tentacles will not strangle it too much.
Well, I've just got to get to Medicare before I can quit.
I said the same thing. You guys
Well,
have a great time. You're gonna have a
Thank you.
great time. It's gonna be a great adventure. And we're gonna be there with you in heart anyhow.
Thank you so much, Paul and Dr. Bill, for being here tonight and being a part of the Mercer County Amateur Radio Club. It was very special, and it was everything I hoped it would be. This was an idea that was hatched by Alex at one of our breakfast meetings. Alex said, I wonder what it would be like to be one of the docs on a major de-expedition. And this isn't a major de-expedition. This is the de-expedition. So we are wishing you well, and we know that the donors will come in. Paul and Bill, you know the commitment that DX Engineering has.
Yeah,
and it's
you guys are the best.
never been stronger, and we're with you all the way, and whatever we can do. And we're going to announce here in a few days our the North American agreement with Anove. So it's a great time. DX
awesome.
Engineering is the exclusive supplier of Anove antennas. So those antennas will come through here to you. And
Fantastic.
so working with Justin and K3LR operator Karsten DL6LAU, who has been here for 15 years and is the sales manager for WeMo. So it's a small backyard, as you know, Paul. And so we wish you the best. Last chance for questions for Bill or for Paul. Hey, it was a great time tonight. Thanks very much. Good evening on the West Coast.
Yep.
Have fun, and we'll have you back soon.
Yep. Good night, everybody.
Dr. Bill.
Bye.
Thank you.
7-3.